The film opens with a woman who comes out of a pool. Confused and frightened, she suddenly gets dragged back into the pool. She then struggles to come out again as her eyes completely turn white. The scene then changes to New York City 3 months later. A woman named Sarah is in her car and she is heading to Miami just to meet her friend, Will. We now see Will and his girlfriend, Lindsay. Lindsay is going on a business trip for a few days, and Will is saying goodbye to her. Their neighbor and friend, Kate, also comes and meets Lindsay before she leaves. Meanwhile, Sarah reaches Miami and she finally meets Will. Both of them are childhood friends and they have not seen each other in a while. Before taking Sarah to her apartment, Will mentions that he did not inform Lindsay about Sarah's arrival, so it could be a surprise for her. In the room, Will explains that he lives right above Sarah's apartment with a couple of friends. Then, he tells her to make herself at home and come to her place when she's free at night because he has a pool and she can hang around with him and his friends there. Meanwhile, we see Lindsay sitting in her car right outside the airport and she calls Will again. They both talk for a while, but suddenly, Will notices that Lindsay is bleeding from her nose. She is shocked and blames the hot weather. Will is concerned about her but doesn't think of it as much of an issue. The scene then changes and we see one of Will's friends, Alex. He is casually walking around when he sees Sarah and runs away because he is terrified of women. Sarah then comes out of her apartment and goes to Will's place. While she is talking to him and looking around, she notices some old books. Will explains that they are Lindsay's and that she likes to read old books. He then states that he is having a small barbecue party with his friends, and he wants Sarah to join them. Then, he brings up the fact that it has been 2 years since Sarah's parents passed away, so she should socialize a bit now. He also adds that he called her to Miami mainly because he wanted her to meet new people and live life normally. After listening to this, she agrees to join him and his friends at the barbecue. At night, she goes to the pool and sees Will along with his friends while they are cooking. Among the 3 friends, one of them is Alex, who was shown earlier. The other 2 are Zach and Kate. They are very happy to meet Sarah and both of them mingle with her, except Alex, who prefers to stay silent. The food is then ready, and while Sarah is preparing her plate, Alex approaches her and claims that she should leave because it is not safe for her. However, before he can say anything else, Kate interrupts them, so Alex goes away. As Alex is leaving, Will insists he stay but he still leaves. Zach thinks Alex is disturbed, but Kate suggests that they should leave him alone for some time. After this, Alex stares at them from afar while 4 of them are in the pool together. As they are having fun in the pool, Will explains how he and Sarah met and have been like siblings since childhood. Then, Kate reminds Will that he has the night shift and has to go to his job in an hour. After realizing this, Will leaves while telling all of them to have fun. Kate also invites Sarah to the beach the next day and leaves. Now, Zach and Sarah are left alone but she feels extremely awkward since Zach keeps flirting with her. He soon realizes that Sarah is feeling uncomfortable, so he leaves too. Sarah is now alone in the pool, so she decides to swim all by herself. While swimming, she starts to feel weird and goes deep in the water. Once she is at the bottom, she feels strong pressure on her chest and immediately gets out of there. She is freaked out when she notices blood running from her nose and immediately rushes to her apartment to clean up. After getting back to her place, she changes her clothes and goes into her living room to drink some water. Suddenly, she hears some peculiar noises. She is a little scared, but still decides to go outside to check. She goes near the pool again and stares right into the water. While she is walking back to her apartment, a tree branch falls right in front of her and she gets startled. With all the tension building up, she decides to calm down and drink some water. When she takes a sip of water, she starts to feel the weird pain and the pressure in her chest again. She then mysteriously finds herself inside the pool again right where she started from. She is extremely perplexed as she gets out of the pool and barely survives this time. Kate notices her and instantly comes running. She comforts Sarah and asks about what happened. Sarah is extremely puzzled at this point and explains that she was in her living room, but she somehow got in the pool again. However, Kate tells her that she is just seeing illusions because she has had a lot to drink, and she is also exhausted from the long trip. After listening to Kate, Sarah is also convinced that she is just tired, so she decides to sleep. Kate walks Sarah to her apartment and goes away. At night, while Sarah is sleeping, she has a nightmare and sees an eerie demonic entity. She is horrified by the sight of it and instantly wakes up. She then goes to the washroom, but as she looks at herself in the mirror, she again gets mysteriously teleported in the pool. This time she cannot get out and feels like a force is pulling her inside the pool. As she is unable to get out and is running out of breath, we see Alex standing at the edge and looking at her. He is not helping her and is not shocked either, which means that he has experienced such events before. Suddenly, Sarah vanishes and appears in a strange room. This time, she knows that all of this is not happening in her head because she is still wet. Freaked out, she runs out of the room, bumping into Alex. Alex knows exactly what happened to her and invites her to go inside his room. She tells him everything that happened to her, and to her surprise, he believes her and doesn't think she's crazy. He reveals that he has seen something similar to this before as well. He talks about a woman who went missing, and this is the woman we saw at the very start of the movie. Alex reveals that he saw the woman drowning in the pool but her body was never found. When questioned by Sarah, he explains that he never told the police because they would not believe him, and even if they did, he would become a suspect. Feeling very freaked out, Sarah claims that she will call the cops and tell them everything, but Alex discourages her. He tells Sarah to go somewhere else and then take action, or else something could go wrong. Sarah thinks that it is a good idea, so she decides to go and live in a motel. Once there, she calls Will and leaves him a message, telling him that something bad happened to her. Then, she asks him to meet her at the motel whenever he is free from work. Meanwhile, Alex is walking towards the pool with a hammer in his hand. Then, he takes out his phone and calls his stepfather. Alex asks him to come over because he wants to show him something that could make them money. His father does not want anything to do with him, so he refuses at first, but still, Alex successfully convinces him to come over. While he is talking to his stepfather, he cuts. Blood drops from his palm into the pool. He observes that the blood almost instantly vanishes, which proves that something bloodthirsty is in there. Meanwhile, Sarah is alone in her room, so she calls Kate. She lets Kate inside and tells her everything that happened. At first, Kate inquires if she is using any hallucinogens, but Sarah confirms that she is not using any substance. She explains how she woke up all wet in her room, but Kate is still very skeptical about it. Both of them do not know each other that well, but Kate wants to help her, so she offers to stay with her at the motel. The scene then changes, and we see Alex's stepfather walking in the building to meet Alex. When he asks Alex about what he wants to show him, Alex tells him to look inside the pool. As he is taking a look, Alex hits him in the face with the hammer and throws him in the pool. He is very confused as to why Alex would do this. It is revealed that Alex hates his stepfather because he came into his mother's life just for her money. Soon after, his mother lost the battle to cancer, but he only cared for the money, which is why Alex wants him gone. The stepfather immediately starts to apologize to Alex. At the same time, he feels like something is tugging on him. He then gets dragged deep inside the pool. Meanwhile, Sarah wakes up from a nightmare. Kate is sleeping right next to her, so she wakes up as well. Sarah explains that she was in the pool once again, but Kate points out that she is not wet this time, so it has to be a nightmare. Sarah is now devastated and shares how she thinks she is losing her mind over nothing, and that all of this might be inside her head after all. Meanwhile, Alex notices that his stepfather's body is completely gone, and only his clothes are left behind in the pool. He takes them out and puts them away since his goal is accomplished. In the morning, Will is extremely concerned as he arrives at the motel to meet Sarah and Kate. He is relieved to know that she did not get hurt and asks exactly what happened to her. Meanwhile, we see Zach swimming in the pool and Alex is staring at him again. After a while, Zach gets out of the pool and starts messing with him, making jokes about him being weird and quiet. Back at the motel, Will has presumably heard everything about the pool from Sarah. She asks him why he never mentioned a girl going missing from their building. However, just when he begins explaining, he starts to feel a sharp pain in his stomach and his nose starts bleeding. He sits down as Sarah explains that she had experienced the same before, and that this could be a symptom. Will also adds that Lindsay had the nosebleed as well the last time he saw her. Then, Will explains that this must be happening because of the psychic Lindsay was seeing. He explains that when Lindsay's mother passed away, she wanted to contact her again, so she started talking to a psychic, but Will never took any of this seriously. He adds that before the girl in their building vanished, he warned Lindsay that death surrounds this building. After hearing Will, Sarah suggests going to the psychic and asking if the building is cursed, but Will begs to differ. For Sarah's safety, he thinks that she should head back to New York, and Kate also thinks that it's a good idea. However, Sarah does not agree and claims that since she has experienced it the most, she wants some answers. She also adds that Lindsay could be in danger, so they need to figure this out before it does more damage. After this, Will agrees, and they decide that Kate and Sarah will go to the psychic, while he has to go back to his apartment and do some research. Both of them then drive to the psychic's house and discover that her name is Samara. She takes money from Sarah in advance and only lets her inside. As she goes inside, Will finds Lindsay's old books and diaries and begins reading them. Samara asks Sarah why she is there. However, before she can say anything, Samara claims that the spirits will tell her everything, and then she performs a ritual. During this ritual, Samara becomes confused after she sees water on the table. Sarah claims that there is nothing on the table, but Samara can see what Sarah can't. The situation intensifies when Samara finally sees the demonic water entity, one that Sarah saw before in her nightmare. The psychic is petrified and immediately asks Sarah to leave because she cannot help her. Sarah still demands some answers, but Samara insists that she leaves and warns her about being in grave danger. Sarah meets Kate again and explains how they are dealing with something so terrifying. Even the psychic has gotten scared. Kate once again clarifies how she does not believe in any of this. She claims that Samara scammed them for money and made everything up. Sarah is a little offended to hear that Kate does not believe her, but Kate calmly explains that Sarah's mind is tricking her for some reason, making her imagine things. Back at the apartment, Will calls Lindsay and they start talking about her diary. Then, he asks her about the pool and explains how they have been experiencing strange things. Suddenly, Will hears a man with Lindsay who tells her that they need to leave. Before leaving, Lindsay confirms that there is an entity in the pool, and explains that she tried to save the missing girl, but before she could do anything the girl vanished. Then, she explains that she has been doing her research on the matter and is not actually on a business trip. She reveals that she is in Greece and that her research led her there, believing she might find some answers. Before Will can say anything else, she ends the call. Will then calls Sarah, who is in a car with Kate. She tells Will about what happened with the psychic, while he gets her up to speed about his conversation with Lindsay. He also tells her how he found some old papers that were written in Greek. He thinks that they belong to Lindsay, so they need to translate them and find out what any of it means. Sarah wants to join Will, but he wants her to stay away from the pool. Instead, he plans to send pictures of the Greek papers to her. After listening to this conversation, Kate starts to believe that all of this might just be real. Back at their building, Alex is in a storage room when Zach comes in and starts messing with him once again while cracking some jokes. However, this time Alex is not having it, and straight up starts revealing a dark secret about Zach. He says that he has seen Zach making out with 2 girls on different occasions, and that cops came looking for both of those girls. Zach gets a little nervous, wondering how Alex knows all of this, so he goes away. When he comes out, he encounters Will. In the meantime, Alex also comes out and stares at them while holding his hammer with a firm grip. Will tries to persuade Zach to cancel the pool party that he is having tonight because something very strange is going on with the pool. However, Zach does not believe any of this and accuses Sarah of being crazy. After this, Will mentions that if anything happens to anyone tonight, then Zach would be responsible. Meanwhile, Sarah goes back to her motel room where she opens her laptop and starts doing some research on the Greek papers. Will, on the other hand, is also doing his own research while drinking water. The next day, Kate is on her way to work when she sees Alex doing something suspicious, so she approaches him. She asks him about what he told Sarah because it freaked everyone out. Alex does not answer her at all, but when she asks again, he tells her that if she really wants to know everything, then she should meet him in his apartment at night. He then leaves Kate feeling skeptical about everything. We now see Will, who gets a call from Lindsay. He is overjoyed to hear from her but soon realizes that something is off. He questions her about what is going on and she claims that she wants to put an end to it all. She explains that she is going someplace with Vasilis, and before she can explain how she plans to do anything against the entity, the call ends. After hearing Lindsay, Will begins to sweat nervously, so he goes out for a moment to get some fresh air. As he goes out, he notices Alex sitting there, so he starts to talk to him, but Alex chooses to stay quiet once again. Will gets a little bit upset at his strange behavior, so he makes it clear that if Alex needs anyone to talk to, he is there for him. He also mentions that he understands why Alex behaves like this but claims that it should not be a reason for not opening up to people. However, these words do not affect Alex and he stays silent while Will gets another call. He goes back inside his room where he picks up Lindsay's call and gets very concerned because she seems to be going inside a very seemingly dangerous place. She now properly explains that she is going inside a very old monastery that belongs to some monks. According to her research, the monks found the entity in a lake and they managed to imprison it in a well that is located in this monastery. However, the entity somehow escaped and now they are planning to put it back inside the well. As they move forward, they start to hear some odd noises and they begin running. Concerned for her safety, Will tells Lindsay to run away from that place. He also tells her to just come back home, so they can figure it out together, but at this point Lindsay and Vasilis are already at the well. The man accompanying Lindsay approaches it and realizes that the water is gone, which means that they cannot do anything to the entity now. Lindsay is devastated and just then, the monks come out of nowhere and they grab Vasilis while Lindsay runs away. Will panics as he sees her starting to bleed from her nose, and her eyes also turn white as the call ends, which means that she has passed away. Will is crushed by this and starts to break down in tears. Then, Sarah calls him, as he is dealing with overwhelming emotions. He breaks the news to Sarah that Lindsay has passed away. She is taken aback by this news and tries to comfort Will. She tells him that all he can do now is be strong and keep fighting, because that is what Lindsay would have wanted him to do. The scene then shifts to Zach's party where everyone is casually sitting in the pool. Meanwhile, as Sarah is busy with her research, she reads that the entity or evil spirit can work through any kind of water. She then calls Will again, and leaves a message that whatever he does, he needs to stay away from water. However, it is too late as Will is already choking on the water he kept drinking earlier. His eyes also turn white and he tragically passes away as well. After this, we see Kate coming back from work and Sarah calls her. She asks her to check on Will and breaks the news of Lindsay passing away. Kate tries to call Will, but when she hears no response from him, she decides to go check on him. Sarah also warns her to stay away from Zach. According to Sarah's research, the entity can control a human because it needs to consume humans to survive. During their discussion, Kate and Sarah realize that Zach always takes people to the pool, so the entity must be controlling him. Just as Kate receives this information, she realizes that Zach is right behind her. The scene then changes to Sarah in her room where she faces the entity once again and teleports back into the pool. She is drowning, but we see that Zach is carrying her inside a room. Meanwhile, Alex is looking at all of this from afar, so he comes closer to check the situation. However, Zach does not cooperate and they end up fighting. Zach easily wins and goes away. Later at night, Sarah wakes up and talks to Alex while Zach is asleep. He claims that they need to escape, so she sneakily gets out of the room and runs away with Alex, who takes her to his stepfather's apartment. Once in that apartment, Sarah realizes that something is wrong and tries to escape. However, Alex manages to tie her up using a shower and uses a timer because Sarah needs to avoid water at all costs. Then, Alex goes away. When he comes back, he gets knocked out by Sarah, who freed herself in his absence. After waking up, Alex reveals that he knows how to eliminate the creature. He explains that he did all of this to Sarah to confirm that she is special and can survive the entity, because no one else aside from her drowned and survived. He then mentions that they need to eliminate the person who is being controlled by the entity, and only Sarah can do it now. They realize that it's Zach who is being controlled because of his scars. They go back to the building where they only find Will and Kate's clothes, meaning that both of them have passed away. Then, Sarah finds Zach and attacks him with a knife, ending his life. However, she sees that he has no scar on his body, meaning that he was not controlled. Alex then checks Zach's body as well, but does not find any scar either. He comes back and tells Sarah that they are safe because Zach is gone. Suddenly, he gets pulled away and it is revealed that it is Kate who was possessed by the entity, not Zach. After this, Kate drags Sarah outside and throws her in the pool, torturing her. Suddenly, Alex arrives and attacks her with a knife. While Kate is distracted with Alex, Sarah picks up the knife and stabs Kate in the heart. Kate passes away right there with the entity. While they believe that the entity is gone for good, Alex starts to bleed from his nose and his eyes turn white as he also passes away. After all of this, Sarah goes to the psychic again and discovers that the entity is now inside of her, because she has a scar on her hand. She is then handed a knife and told that she has to aim for the heart and kill the entity once and for all. The movie ends as she points toward her heart.